They threw you into the storm, believing the thunder would shatter you. They whispered your name in rooms you weren't in, hoping the echo would haunt you. They closed doors, pulled strings, twisted narratives, confident that the weight of it all would bend your spine and break your spirit. But here you are, breathing, calm, unmoved, and that is what terrifies them. Because your peace is their fear. They expected noise. They expected tears. They expected you to fight back with the same chaos they handed you. They thought you would scream, retaliate, defend yourself in every corner of the battlefield they created. They thought you would lose sleep. They thought you would lose yourself. They thought you would lose, but instead, you chose silence. Not weakness, silence. Not surrender, stillness. And that stillness became your weapon. Do you understand what that does to someone who thrives on your reaction? When they push and you don't fall. When they provoke and you don't respond. When they attack and you don't bleed in public. It confuses them. It unsettles them. It exposes them. Because they were prepared for war. They were not prepared for your peace. They thought your kindness was fragility. They mistook your empathy for weakness. They assumed your quiet nature meant you didn't have a storm inside you. But what they never understood is this: the most dangerous storms are the ones that move in silence. You didn't survive because you fought them on their battlefield. You survived because you walked away from it. You didn't become stronger by shouting. You became stronger by observing, by learning, by transforming. When they tried to drown you in doubt, you learned to breathe underwater. When they set fire to your confidence, you became the phoenix. When they turned their backs, you faced yourself. And that is where everything changed. There was a time when their words felt like knives. A time when their absence felt like abandonment. A time when their betrayal felt like proof that you weren't enough. You questioned yourself. You replayed conversations in your mind. You wondered what you could have done differently. You felt the sting of injustice, the ache of being misunderstood, the weight of carrying pain no one else could see. And in that darkness, you had two choices: break or build. You chose to build, brick by brick, thought by thought, boundary by boundary. You started waking up earlier, not just from sleep, but from illusion. You saw the patterns. You saw the manipulation. You saw how they fed on your emotional reactions like oxygen, and so you did something radical. You stopped feeding them. You stopped explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stopped shrinking to make insecure minds comfortable. You stopped chasing closure from those who thrived on leaving wounds open. Instead, you turned inward. You asked yourself the hard questions. Why do I crave their approval? Why does their opinion carry so much weight? Why am I fighting for a seat at a table that never valued me? And in the silence, you heard something powerful. Your own voice. For the first time, you weren't drowning in their noise. You were listening to your truth. You began to cultivate peace, not the fragile kind that depends on circumstances, but the unshakable kind that grows from self-awareness. You started protecting your energy like it was sacred. Because it is, you realized that reacting to every insult was like setting yourself on fire just to keep them warm, so you stopped. And that's when the power shifted. Did they really think you would stay broken forever? Did they think pain was permanent? Did they believe their opinion defined your destiny? They underestimated you, and now they don't recognize you. They see the calm in your eyes. They see the way you walk into rooms without seeking validation. They notice how their words no longer land, and it unsettles them, because chaos loses its grip when peace refuses to engage. They expected you to crumble. Instead, you crystallized. They expected you to beg. Instead, you built. They expected you to chase. Instead, you chose. You chose boundaries over drama, growth over gossip, silence over spectacle, and that choice became your crown. Understand this: peace is not passive. Peace is powerful. Peace is discipline. Peace is the decision to master your emotions instead of being mastered by them. When they throw stones and you don't throw them back, it forces them to confront their own reflection. When they spread rumors and you continue to elevate, it highlights their insecurity. When they attempt to provoke and you respond with indifference, it exposes their dependence on your reaction. Your peace becomes a mirror. And some people cannot stand what they see. They wanted you reactive because reactive people are predictable. They wanted you angry because anger clouds judgment. They wanted you desperate because desperation is easy to control. But peace is unpredictable. Peace is grounded. Peace is untouchable. You began moving differently. Your words became fewer, but sharper. Your circle became smaller, but stronger. Your energy became guarded, but radiant. You realized that not every battle deserves your sword. Some battles deserve your absence, and your absence became louder than any argument you could have made. They watch you now, from a distance, trying to decode you, trying to understand how you're no longer triggered, how you're no longer chasing, how you're no longer proving. And that's when fear creeps in, because they know something has changed. You are no longer playing the same game. You are not seeking applause. You are not seeking revenge. You are not seeking permission. You are seeking alignment, and alignment is unstoppable. There is a different aura around you now. It's not loud, it's not aggressive, it's calm, like the surface of a deep ocean. But beneath that surface, depth, strength, mystery. They sense it. They feel the shift, and they realize something they never anticipated. You don't need them. That realization shakes them more than any confrontation ever could, because control only works when someone needs your approval. And you outgrew that need. You stopped asking, "Why did they do this to me?" and started asking, "What is this teaching me?" You stopped viewing yourself as a victim and started seeing yourself as a student of life. Every betrayal became a lesson in boundaries. Every rejection became redirection. Every loss became clarity. You didn't become colder. You became wiser. You didn't lose your heart. You refined it. You learned that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation, that kindness doesn't require access, that love doesn't require self-abandonment. And as you mastered these truths, something extraordinary happened. You became peaceful in places that once made you anxious. You became confident in situations that once intimidated you. You became indifferent to opinions that once consumed you. That is evolution. That is power. That is why your peace is their fear. Because they cannot manipulate someone who knows their worth. They cannot intimidate someone who is comfortable alone. They cannot control someone who has made peace with themselves. You are no longer reacting from wounds. You are responding from wisdom. You are no longer chasing validation. You are standing in value. And when you stand in value, you don't have to announce it. It speaks for itself. Notice how different your life feels now. Quieter, clearer, more intentional. You no longer entertain every invitation to drama. You no longer respond to every message meant to provoke. You no longer explain yourself to people determined to misunderstand you. You conserve your energy. You protect your focus. You guard your mind. And that discipline, that self-mastery, radiates. They might call you distant. They might call you arrogant. They might say you've changed. And they're right. You have changed. You changed the moment you decided your inner peace was more important than their temporary approval. You changed the moment you stopped shrinking. You changed the moment you realized that not every fight deserves your fire. Sometimes the strongest move is to walk away. Sometimes the loudest statement is silence. Sometimes the greatest revenge is peace. You no longer feel the need to correct every false narrative. Truth doesn't panic. Truth doesn't rush. Truth stands, and time reveals it. So you stand, unbothered, grounded, rooted, and the more you refuse to react, the more they spiral, because your stillness forces them to sit with their own chaos. Your growth highlights their stagnation. Your maturity exposes their immaturity, and they feel it. They feel the power slipping from their hands. They feel the control fading. They feel the distance growing. But you feel lighter. You feel freer. You feel aligned. You wake up without that heavy knot in your chest.